The soft tapping of rain echoes in my room as I fill my lungs with smoke. A thunderstorm is brewing, and I am at my wit's end. I've put this thing under lock and key. If I want to get back into this thing, I'm gonna need to jump through an absurd amount of hoops. What I'm about to talk about would most likely get me labeled as a heretic within the wider Imperium. I'd really rather not get killed over something so stupid. If I'm being honest, the only reason why I'm recording this is so I can listen back to it for inspiration. My name is Sarvis, Acolyte of the Order of Astartes, and I'm at a dead end. For about a month, I've been investigating leads about an elusive Space Marine chapter known as the Doomslayers of Ares. My search has brought me to the world of Port Imperator, a planet that lies within the Cronus Expanse at the edge of the Imperium. Ever since I was a kid, this world had a strange habit of attracting rogue traders and other strange individuals. If it wasn't for work, I'd leave this world to wallow in its own misery. This place has a lot of bad memories. Way back in the day, this planet used to be a feudal world. It was discovered by the rogue trader Sebastian Winterscale just after access to the Expanse became available. At first, interactions between the wider Imperium and the native human population went without issue. Both sides benefited greatly from the endeavor as the world became a center of trade within the Expanse. Not content with his current state of affairs, Sebastian Winterscale started building a center of operations and, in turn, a small city upon the planet. This drew a lot of attention from all the different parties in the Expanse. Naturally, more rogue traders arrived, but so did a more problematic element: Xenos. Tau, Kroot, and other such smaller Xeno races flocked to the world, as did an absurd amount of Eldar. I'll explain this in a bit, but I have to move on. Over time, the natives of the world and colonists began to butt heads. This would spiral out of control. Riots, protests, and small-scale revolts erupted, which Sebastian put down hard. After this period of instability, the world went through a rather uninteresting peace, until one of Winterscale's descendants, 400 years later, decides to turn the base of operations on Port Imperator into a hive city. This dolt imports an absurd amount of slaves, both human and Xeno alike. Actually, when I say an absurd amount, what I mean to say is an uncontrollable amount. Slave revolts erupt as this moron gets greedy. Then the native populace revolts, and then the imperial citizens revolt. Within 3 decades, this Winterscale, whose name has been justifiably lost to time, almost loses grasp of everything his family had built, not just because of the hive, but because of the lifestyle he taxed to maintain. From what I've been able to gather, the taxation he levied upon the people of Port Imperator was around 80 to 95%. To put down these revolts and save face with the aristocracy of the Imperium, this Winterscale hires pirates to put down the rebellions. Cut to modern times, and Port Imperator has become a major pirate haven. It should be noted that after the rebellions died down, there was a rather large surge of Eldar refugees who came from a destroyed craft world. They eventually hid among the populace and maintained a steady population ever since. Now make no mistake, these Eldar don't view humans as their equals. The only reason they're on the world in the first place is out of desperation. Because of this strangely large population, and the fact Port Imperator is a pirate haven, this place has become a recruitment ground for Eldar corsairs who view this world as little more than a zoo. They get to see how humans live, and laugh at it for their own amusement. Bunch of smug motherfuckers. Naturally, such a large Xeno population upon a world would attract the attention of organizations such as the Inquisition, which is undoubtedly the case. The Inquisition knows there are a lot of Xenos on the planet, but have refrained from interfering since the Winterscales have shown a dedication to purging them. It also helps that the Winterscales, as well as the host of other rogue traders who make a killing dealing in Xenotech, are absurdly wealthy. What I'm getting at is this: the only thing standing in the way of Port Imperator being purged is a promise to change and do better, as well as good old-fashioned greed. Truth be told, it probably helps that this planet is on the edge of the Imperium, and technically not even a sector. Like I alluded to earlier, I was born on Port Imperator. Naturally, living on a world dominated by rogue traders and littered with countless Xenos can change a person's line of thinking quite substantially. Wish I could say that I learned how to see the good in everyone, and that at our core, we're all the same, human, Eldar, and Tau alike. I wish I could, but life had a completely different lesson in mind. I don't have an irrational hatred of Xenos, unlike the wider Imperium, because mine isn't irrational. It doesn't stem from religious doctrine or propaganda, but actual, real-world experience. When every Eldar you work for treats you as less than an animal, when every Eldar leaves out critical information for their own pleasure, when every Eldar threatens to turn you inside out if you dare address them as an equal, your hatred tends to grow. Same holds true for the Tau, though they aren't as blatant as the Eldar. They'll hide their manipulation behind kind words and smiles, but will kill you at the drop of a hat if it means furthering their greater good. Once again, I wish I could say that humanity rose above this, that we are the better species, but we're not. The worst exploitation and acts I can only describe as evil inflicted upon me were at the hands of fellow humans. The lesson that life taught me wasn't that there's good in all of us. The lesson that life taught me was that there is great evil in everyone, and it's lurking beneath the surface, waiting to get out. I don't hate Xenos because they're Xenos. I distrust them because they're people, and people are constantly letting me down. I recall very little about the people who gave birth to me. The man I won't call my father was a drunk who got indebted to an Eldar Corsair. Parts of his body still stain the alleyway he was found in. My mother was no better, but instead of gambling, her vice was drugs. I think an Imperial noble did something with her, but it really doesn't matter. From the age of 8, I was on my own, left to fend for myself. Naturally, I began stealing to survive. At first it was food and other such essentials. Over time, it escalated. I began pickpocketing and stealing things I didn't necessarily need. Eventually, I learned that the secrets people keep are far more valuable than money. Be it through eavesdropping or breaking into homes and digging through files, I started to become a rather informed kid. Slowly, I developed a reputation which got me noticed by all the wrong people. Humans, Eldar, Tau, they were all the same. They threatened to kill me if I didn't work for them, but offered me a sizable reward if I fell in line. Needless to say, the reward always fell through. It was a hard life which just so happened to make me uniquely qualified for the Inquisition. Then again, if it wasn't for that hard life, I would have never been discovered by Inquisitor Kalen in the first place. I had just finished a job for an Imperial noble who, naturally, didn't pay me. I was strapped for cash and needed food, so I took to pickpocketing in a massive crowd. As these things tend to often go, I ended up pickpocketing Inquisitor Kalen during one of his investigations. However, I must have done a rather good job considering he didn't notice me in the moment. Eventually, however, the Inquisitor did notice, and using the weight his title gave him, he was able to track me down to where I lived. He stuck a gun in my face, pretty sure he put it in my mouth, and gave me a choice. Either I tell him something interesting to keep my life, or he'll kill me. At the time, I didn't fully understand what he was asking. Having an Inquisitor hold a gun to your head isn't exactly great for clear thinking. However, I realized he was giving me the same choice so many of my other employers had given me in the past. I informed him that a group of smugglers in the sewers had gotten their hands on some Space Marine weaponry. Satisfied, Inquisitor Kalen put his gun away and told me to accompany him to the sewers. This was the start of my career in the Inquisition, and I was only 16. It's been several years since that day, and I've never seen Inquisitor Kalen act so blunt than he had with me. Maybe he was having a particularly bad day, or maybe he was looking for a protege? Doesn't matter, but during my time serving under him, I've never met, seen, or even heard about another one of his agents, which I find kind of strange. At this point, I've gotten off topic. Guess drinking and smoking before bed can do that to a person. Now that I think about it, those smugglers back in the day were an odd bunch. No harm in tracking them back down. From what I recall, the way those four got their hands on the Space Marine weaponry was particularly strange. Outside of rogue traders who've been rather unhelpful, they may be the lead I'm looking for. I doubt they'll be the ones to set me on the fast track for the Doomslayers, but for my next log I will address my findings and explain Inquisitor Kalen a bit more in detail. Acolyte Sarvis Vash of the Ordo Astartes, signing off.